from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for pretty long. Ooh, welcome everybody to Full Spectrum Universe. Good evening, good evening. We are the Embattled Broadcast, and we're here to set the record straight for human history. What is human history? Human history is the story of the universe. We've talked about Lyran History. This is part 2 to the Lyran Histories and how it intersects with human history. Now, what we're going to be talking about tonight is we're going to pick up right where we left off. We're going to be diving into how humans themselves are a part of one of the most eclectic and amazing stories from a galactical standpoint. So first, before we start all that, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here. Tonight, I am wearing my Adidas jumpsuit, which is an homage to New York City in the 90s. I also have my 1935 gangster hat on. So we are paying homage to those who come before us and to family and friends that built this amazing city. And right now it's not quite amazing as it was, but I'm doing my best to bring it back to its rightful prominence among many of the different cities across the United States and even the world, and being one of the best places on earth. So we're going to start tonight with my opening salvo as well, just like we did last time. Tonight's going to be really exciting. We're going to be getting into a little bit of the Brennau and angelic lineages. And to me, it's completely incredible to understand that our pedigree and our legacy is within these entities that essentially are here to save what humanity is today, but have been doing so across the stars for many, many a century, many, many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. And once we figure out that understanding who they are, we get a better understanding of who we are, and vice versa. And we start to have this cultivated contact, which in turn gives us access to the greater collective consciousness and the Akashic record as a whole, right? So, without further ado, let's jump into some of the stuff we've got going on. Mid-February, we're going to have our energetics course. Our energetics course is going to be a paid course. This course is going to change your life on a cellular, physical, spiritual, and mental level. I promise you, this is not going to be one to miss. This is going to be one that's going to be for the ages. This is going to be some of my best work being put together. I know it because this information resonates with me tenfold. Second, please, please, please share this out. Man and woman who don't know where they come from is a man and woman lost. We are trying to help those who are lost find their way back to what we are, who we are, and what we're truly, truly capable of. Also, after you share this out, please, when the stream is over, leave a comment underneath. You have no idea what that does for the algorithmic bugs and pushing us to a different place and a new paradigm to reach more and more people. And it's truly, truly phenomenal what we've done so far in just the first 2 years of this broadcast. And I can only imagine what the next 5 years down the line is going to bring for us. So also, we have a donation button. Your donations are received with love and gratitude. All proceeds to donations go right back into the broadcast to bring us even more platforms and further reach. And I've been talking about a website for quite a while, and I really think I'm on the verge of something completely different than anything you've ever seen. It's going to be absolutely incredible once it unveils. I know it's been a long time coming, months, but we are working on it. I promise you. We are also working on some affiliate programs that are going to be coming through. Also on Wednesday of this week, and today's Monday, well, maybe Tuesday where you are. So it's either Wednesday or Thursday, wherever you might be. We're going to be having two of my special friends, Ernie Atwell and Dave Siller. They are from Paranormal Inc. We're going to be talking about stories from beyond the veil. That's going to be an intense, incredible episode. Every time those guys come on, we have so much fun. And we always have a we really have this connection that can't be forced. It can't be, it can't be duplicated. It's really tremendous men. And we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's get into the opening salvo. A lot of what we know and a lot of who we are based on edicts and programs presented to us by the controllers. Now, the controllers have been at work for many, many a century, even before this incarnation of human beings were here. We start with the Atlantean conspiracy. We start with what happened with Lemuria and Mu. That is the essence of the old vestiges of humanity. What we know is that in the beginning of inception on Earth, which is third dimensional, the third dimensional Earth, not 5D Terra, not 7D Gaia, there were two sets of human beings that roamed this Earth. There was the lower and upper Shambhalas, that the Andromedans and the Pleiadians created. There were also the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, which were created by the Anunnaki. When the great catastrophe, a great cataclysm of a flood happened, these two units began to merge, which means that we have vestiges within our DNA of both the Anunnaki side, which is somewhat of the reptilian side of our brains, and we also have the Pleiadian Andromedan side, which in turn gives us the higher echelons of consciousness. These entities were not third dimensional, they were fifth to seventh dimensional, usually stepping down their consciousness to essentially shape all that is of Earth. And from there, we get to what we are today. Now, to understand humanity, we have to go even further back to the cradle of humanoid consciousness within this universe. This is why the title of this show is Human History is the Story of the Universe. Humanity as a whole, or humanoid third density to fifth density beings, come from the cradle of Lyra. We talked about in the last time some of the different aspects or the different types of architectures that are in place to essentially ground humanoid or humanity, human beings, and not realizing their truest potential. So tonight, we're going to talk a little bit more about the lineages of what human beings come from, but we're also going to be talking about the integration of alignment, the integration of information, the integration of deprogramming and deprogramming ourselves to a point of zero. When we hit that 0 point is when we truly, truly find out what lies out there. And once we understand that humanity has basically come from Lyra, we see that all echelons of entities, whether light and or dark, most of the dark come from the void and the light comes from Lyra. So with that being said, let us dive into the first portion, which is the Emerald Order Brennau and the Lyran lineages. The first light manifestations of the Emerald Order and Blue Flame projected from the God Source Field, which is the threefold founder flame or the Cosmic Trinity. The Brennau are founder consciousness that reside at 13th density, 14th density, and 15th density. They are the solar Rishik levels that directly support the guardian founder races in the lower harmonic universes. Right? This is where these entities support liberation, freedom, sovereignty, and God. And a continued spiritual evolution of humanity towards practicing what we know as the law of one. All of the universe is based around the law of one. So the Emerald Order seeded the Anuhazi feline Elohim races and are also known as the founders of the Christos races, right? The Ayani Esseni Grail lines that include the Oraphim. Now, when we say this, and I'm going to pull back to me for a second, we have to understand that regardless of what we're talking about here, there are factions that reside on both good and bad and indifferent. There are three factions to every group: the light bearers, the darkness, and the ones who reside in between, right? This is what we know as fact. So, whenever we have contact with any multiple entities across the multiverse, we have to inherently judge them for their actions. Reasons being, and I'm going to give you an extreme example. A reptilian comes to you, right? Majority of reptilians reside within the darkness. There are some reptilians who are defectors from that darkness and reside within the side of light or within the side of gray. They just don't care. And what they do is they give messages to people. And those messages, now again, if a reptilian comes to you, it is absolutely okay to be a little apprehensive and take whatever they say with a grain of salt, but don't dismiss the message completely. This is one of the things that it took me a long time to understand. Because the most of them reside within the darkness, my ego was to come forward quick and say, listen, you're a piece of garbage. You've done nothing but hurt humanity. Get away from me. That, while I don't want to say was completely right or wrong, was probably not the best way to handle it. So we have to keep that in mind. But just know that we have to look at the collective as a whole, right? We look at all the reptilians as a whole. And we're like, okay, majority of them are pretty dark and pretty disgusting, which is fine. You should think that. But don't dismiss messages out of hand. You can find the most informative message or information from the damnedest of places. So we have to keep that in mind, right? Let's get back to what we're doing here. Also, we'll be taking questions at the end of all of this, so you guys can ask anything you'd like. I'll do my best to answer what I can. So now that we've done a little bit of the lineage here, these are advanced beings from the highest dimensional worlds that appear as tall, luminescent figures with elongated head and large eyes. And when they physically manifest, they reveal the highest refined emerald colors of the Holy Father arc or the cosmic monad principle, right? They will never interfere and must be communicated with either through previous lineage association or their presence requested with full consent and personal intent of service to others as a guardian. These guardian groups include massive numbers with a great variety of different advanced species. And this is why I tell you, and I prefaced it, that we can't discard all of one group because the majority of them are not okay, right? So the Guardian Alliance is directed by the Elohim Emerald Order Brenau, who support the Guardians incarnated on the earth that are connected to the lineages of the Christos founder race, which you are all a part of, right? That's why we're talking about this. You are the lineage of the Christos founder races. These are starseeds and indigos that have incarnated specifically to restore the Emerald Covenant or the reclamation of the Christos. The Emerald Brenau founders specifically incarnated into the Lyran Syrian lines that originate from Sirius B as the Blue Azurites and the Oraphim. This is what they go by now. So the Christos founder race missions include supporting the pathway of disclosure that leads into planetary liberation and ascension. and providing the records for witness testimony on behalf of Earth and humanity to be freed from their AI alien oppressor and to gain access into the Interdimensional Free World Council. It's important to be aware of the fact that for many years, the Emerald Order Guardians were being replicated in an extensive AI hologram network that was used to trick and subvert the Indigos, Starseeds, and the Christos people from awakening and preventing them from the actualization of their heroic probability or Christos mission. Many reconnaissance and repair projects repurposed to dismantle these inorganic structures within the AI timelines, right? They were found strewn in these phantom pockets and hybridization zones, and both AI holograms used to project the Christos DNA creator code into the false timelines, and the false holograms that used usurped Emerald Order DNA appear to be they were first stolen during the Thothian hijack, which we talked about. Then this led to the Asceni massacre, which we also talked about, and breeding programs for alien hybridizations on world, off world, and on Nibiru. These are the stolen records which were in the emerald tablets that held the codices for the deconstructing of all information recorded within the Emerald Sun DNA. So specific planetary staff and permanent seed atom schematics in all of the 4 planetary rounds making up the entirety of the universal tribal shield. So now we see how this is coming together. This is why we talked about all that we talked about. This is why we did all the episodes beforehand to talk about these things, right? Let us keep going. So, this has been an ongoing journey to identify these extensive AI projects used as imposters of the Emerald Order that were communicating with Earth humans via false channelings and image projections, right? And I'm sure if we sit around and look at YouTube for a while, we can see that some of these people are still prevalent within the community, being led by these false AI projections. And I'm not naming any names, it's not for anybody specific. I'm saying as a generalization, right? So the Emerald Order Recon mission reached a crescendo in obtaining access to the quantum supercomputers used to upload the Emerald Order DNA code that is then projected into computer servers and transmitted through AI signals. And this, which was used to create the AI Emerald Order DNA structures throughout the matrix itself. So the Guardian teams recovered a massive amount of AI hardware in terms of the alien machinery used to power up these AI holograms. And this was running artificial Emerald Guardian holograms and DNA code as projections for others to kind of gain access and destroy them, or at least subvert them to some other pocket where they can no longer do their harm. And these projections were used to attempt overrides on all the organic Emerald Order coding, right? And pervert the architecture into this Thothian code that gestulates and designed to control all the basic AI distortions that have been infiltrated into these grids. So Thoth was uploaded into an AI brain eventually. And this is not the actual original Lucifer being, but the AI version of himself uploaded and downloaded all over the fabric of the universal time matrix. And this is a ongoing cycle, which is why we're talking about it now, that leads back to the Lyran Wars. And this cycle is what inherently is holding humanity back as we speak, right? So we know that when we talk about these things, we destroy these architectures. They no longer hold sway over the awakened communities because we are pushing our light onto them and passing them through, right? And when we talk about Lucifer, this is the Lucifer that was created from Father out in the void. And his abandonment issues began the initial wars or takeover of the Lyran galaxy. And he used the reptilian draconists to do his bidding. They were two-dimensional creatures at that time, and he was pushing them. And this cycle continues. So instead of taking the reptilians now, he's taking humans on Earth to do his bidding and to essentially monitor his AI projections, which gives those elites their plans, and then they trickle down to the regular humans and then the awakened consciousness across the globe and siphoning some of their life energies, but also keeping them from understanding their true boundless nature, right? So, as we continue, during the Lyran Wars, the destruction created rips and tears in the fabric of space time, generating severe damage in the time matrix, which further resulted in an unnatural black hole system, which appears to have made our fallen time matrix easily susceptible to this mass AI infection. The unnatural black hole was exploited by these negative entities to build their artificial realities into the phantom matrix, an AI system that siphons energy from living things. The phantom matrix is set to run on reversed polarity currents fed through the victimizer polarity software, which then mutated itself into several dimensional layers of AI programming. The infection began at the point of the Lyran Gate's destruction, and with the solar logo's body fragmenting in its consciousness into the lower particle dimensions, while this AI infection of the victimizer was put out, it was spread into each one of those lower dimension layers. And it's basically a Trojan horse that would generate extreme polarity reversals and gender splitting in each of the downstep spectrums of frequency, right? So, this is important. This is why we're seeing society break apart at its seams today because of these inherent traumas from the beginning of humanity. This is why this is the story of the universe, too, because all other entities are affected by this splitting and this reverse polarity within this phantom matrix. Why is that? Because all of their genetical code is implemented on Earth. All of their code is here. So if anything is to happen to their civilization or race or entirety as a whole, they can be remanifested from their genetical codes that reside on this arc planet. So when these entities are essentially capitulating the energies of this arc planet, their genetical codes that can be serviced to them are trapped. They're stuck. They can't take them out. So this is why it is important for us to wake up. But it's also why these entities are pulling for us to wake up because they have stake in the game. They want their stuff back. They want their genetical codes to be accessible when needed. Every entity on or in or around this universe has code that is on this planet, whether it be in the dolphins, whether it be laid away in some oak tree somewhere. Those genetical codes are the blueprint of all that is, was, and will ever be within this universe. And that's on a multi-dimensional level. Simple enough, right? So Right. Now we're going to get into the reverse polarity currents. They were designed to stop polarity integration and eliminate the tri-wave manifestation. A tri-wave manifestation is when you manifest something, it comes to fruition immediately. And this is required for these parasitic entities to survive. They also use reverse polarity currents to run their alien machinery and artificial timelines, as well as advanced technologies for their psychotronic warfare that are used against those they intend to capture. This brings us to their foremost AI mind control weapon of choice, the mutation in consciousness that occurred from the original AI infection inserted during the Lyran Wars, which affects humanity now. This is why, again, humanity seems like society and culture is being ripped apart at its seams. And there's an inversion of reality with everything, right? This brought the infamous victimizer program. This software was very effective in generating these polarity reversal currents and creating consciousness slaves that could be controlled for the purpose of harvesting the losh for the negative entities. It's insidious, right? It's absolutely insidious. The nefarious nature of these entities says that we shouldn't give them any sort of mercy. But if we did that, we would be no better than them. While we cast them away, never to be a part of this culture again, to destroy them would be not the law of one and not of service to others. So we have to understand that. We walk a tightrope. Being on this front line, it is a tightrope, right? And we have to understand that sometimes the ego becomes part of the darkness or latches on to dark thoughts in the sense of diminishing the light of these entities, you know, because it's in human nature to destroy because we are programmed that way, but we're really not. This is a fake infested program, and it's kind of it's there's a dichotomy there, which we'll get into at a later time. It's a lot to explain now, but we're going to talk about the mutated polarity consciousness and the victimizer. So once we go through this section, you're going to understand how they've ensnared humanity and why they've done it. Well, we've talked about it with the lotion, things like that, right? Fine. Now, bringing this to light, you're going to understand it. Therefore, you'll never be affected by it ever again. That's my promise in this broadcast. You may come up against it, but it will never affect you in the same manner in which it did before the realization of what's actually happening. So, the goal of these invading entities, which brought on the Lyran Wars altogether, was to destroy access between the universal gates, the Lyran gates and Andromeda, to prevent any meta-terrestrial founder races from gaining access within to the Milky Way system and preventing future seedings and incarnations of the Christos founder race's DNA. But the Lyran Wars spread to the constellation of Orion and through the meta-galactic core, where it became a war with those who wanted to dominate others in this system based upon this victimizer, fear-based mindset. This is also called, this can also be called the archetypal enemy patterning. So entities within the service of self ideology were attempting to enslave or eliminate those who follow the law of one. With the ideology of service to others, they held love based mindsets, right? Or service to others, they held those love based mindsets. This is why they wanted to enslave them. So the extreme polarity consciousness was amplified due to the AI levels of programming used to weaponize attacks against the multiple other species. The Broga from the black hole systems inserted the virus with AI programming into our matrix, creating a time rip with technology. And that, of course, was called, again, the victim victimizer software. These entities were introduced to the mainstream as like the Borg in Star Trek. So these Borg like creatures are cybernetic organisms linked into a hive mind called the collective. They basically co opt technology and knowledge of other alien species within their collective, just like the Borg, and they assimilate everything, right? So this AI infection corrupted the organic microcosmic architectural structures that formed the law of polarity or Gemini and the law of gender Pisces, which were automatically generating reversal polarity currents as a result of this reversal polarity. So, further generating the gender reversals in the planetary body. Think for a moment. What the last 3 years is actually representing in our world today that is directly mirroring this original event from the Lyran Wars is the replay is it's basically replaying in this timeline. It's showing itself as a manifested thing to amplify the fear of the victim victimizer in the current timeline of the physical realm. So, how do we stop it? We refuse to play the victim victimizer games. So the victim victimizer programming appears to be sourced from the original polarity experiments that many races from other neighboring systems in the lower creation realms were setting up to incarnate into their matrices or their time matrices to better understand the challenges and pitfalls of existing in extreme polarity consciousness. So, over many millions of cycles, these entities found themselves losing control over their polarity experiments, from committing ongoing power abuses and forgetting their connection to the God source. They became dependent on artificial black hole technology, and this generated time rips, unnatural black holes, and AI viruses, which spread damage throughout many of our neighboring systems, including our Milky Way universe. These black hole entities were using time rip technology to gain access into neighboring matrices to vandalize, assimilate, and consume the energy of living forces or living things. And they reduced themselves to parasites that had to hunt down living energy systems from which to siphon energy in order to ensure that they would continue to exist in the same entity form and have power and control over all of the living things within that universe. So we see that this is something that has been happening outside of our universe, but they've infected our universe. So we have to understand that this is essentially what we're talking about. And this picture you're seeing up right now is an EMF. And this is how the EMF affects the human brain via signaling. This is essentially the same thing. This is most congruent to what they're doing with their victim victimizer mentality or their WEFs, right? This is what it is. They're emitting fields which interact with our auric fields and our consciousness. They have programming coming from the moon, which is affecting humankind. This this is one of the most important things to understand as well, because this mentality is not something that's just inherently a part of human nature, although we think it might be, because it's such a it's such a prominent program within our forefront, but it's not. It's not. Now, again, The moon is whatever. It could be a space station. It could be whatever it is. There is a place on the moon that is emitting EMF signals, which is tampering with the human brain and consciousness. So let us keep going. So during these Lyran wars, this victim software was also intended to amplify the and reverse the creation code in the natural polarity system in order to create mind slaves, specifically targeting the Christos humans inhabiting the Milky Way system. It is designed as an antichrist AI software used to infect the genetic template of the original Christos blueprint with gender splitting and metatronic reversals or death spiral architecture. The victimizer program has become the primary mind control software that multiple predator races use to inflict the archonic deception behavior and its divide and conquer strategies between all humans. Essentially, it works well for creating mind control slaves. The only way out of this victimizer program is to study it in order to comprehend the consciousness damage it generates and refuse it by staying neutral. So while choosing to integrate the polarities through unconditional love and 0 point and not playing into the victim and blame game. That's why it's important to go over these things. So essentially, this mutation is responsible for the reverse polarity AI spectrum that holds the human race seed memory, which contains the timelines when we lost contact with our genetic equal. So the loss of a species' ability to achieve sacred marriage and ascension. This is why the red wave spectrum of survival consciousness, where they run this AI victim consciousness, is so painful to human hearts and can destroy our personal will. This is unnatural extreme polarity mutation introduced by the black hole entities, generating distortions in the male female balance in our diamond sun genetic template, and is contributing factor in the gender reversals and extreme polarity competition that led to conflicts that's happening during the fall of Tara and many other tragic fallen histories. Let's go back and examine painful history which leads to the fall of our first world and draw the parallels of the current spiritual crisis we're living through at this time. And in order to see our task at hand and come into full completion, these destructive histories or haunting histories of our world and past times must be revisited. We must go through them. And that is what we're going to do now. As you can see, I missed a slide, but I'm going to give you a minute to look at it and then I'm going to move along with it. This is looking at the ether, the air, the water, and earth and what it relates to within your body. This is the four corners, shall we say, or four pillars of humanity. This is what makes us who we are. This is our connection to everything that is, was, and ever will be. This is why it's important. This is why it's important. I think I missed this one too. Jeez, I missed a lot of stuff. Sorry, guys. But this is the drama triangle, right? Let me help you. It's all your fault. Poor me. This is what they call a drama triangle. And this is also the victim triangle, and how a victimizer will essentially use their power inherently to let you believe that they're helping you and steer you in the wrong direction. As we keep going. I missed this one too. Just a picture of a baby in there. So this is seeding the first Christos humans on planet Terra. Many millions of years ago, several founder metaterrestrial races from this universe system and beyond into the omniverse came together at the royal house of Lyra. This meeting was for the purpose of contributing the most advanced genetic material in the creation of our first world. This is what we talked about with the Patel, Mother, Father, Yahweh, all of that stuff in Galactical Beginnings, episode 1, which is known as the planet Terra. The cosmic trinity are representations of the first, second, and third emanations of God's source, and thus are the universal founders of this particular time matrix. So the universal founders are non dimensionalized solar body expressions from outside of the time matrix located in the pre matter fields outside of it. This cosmic trinity protects the promise of ascension for all living things traveling within this universal time matrix by ensuring they eventually are able to return to their source frequency and spiritual home at the end of evolution cycles. So, returning home into the 0 point field after completing the time matrix evolution cycles are the areas of non dimensionalization realms where the free cosmic Christos citizens travel and live in the highest creations that exist in the eternal God worlds. In the fifth harmonic universe, there is no dimensionalization into matter forms. Therefore, there is no planetary body or human form. In the fifth density, there is no time, and as the consciousness does not manifest into matter forms, this area is called pre matter. To oversee the creation of the first world, the universal founders created a race in which to seed their consciousness through on Terra. And this race is the Lyrans. Now, when we talk about the Lyrans, we're talking about the Patel Lyrans, not the Lyrans or the feline Lyrans that we will come to later know. I want to make that distinction. So the Lyrans utilized the genetic library of meta-terrestrial races to design the core manifestation template for the first seeding of the original human 12-strand DNA prototype, which was designed to be guardian life forms intended to protect the planet Terra. The Lyrans further step down their consciousness into the lower densities in the third harmonic layers by creating another identity. And these race lines were designed to exist within the dimensional layers of the modanic spirit plane. This race was created by the Lyran founders to specifically oversee the projects of the Lyran Syrian genetical seedings occurring on Terra. And these particular groups are known as the Elohim. Further, the Syrian Council was organized by and then appointed by the Lyrans to be the main overseers of seeding life on the planet Terra and the next lower dimensions, the second harmonic universe to be exact. So the Lyrans and the Syrians brought the meta-terrestrial genetic material together to create the first diamond sun template body in matter for the original Tarans, which is the original angelic human body that all Earth humans are actually genetically descended from. Which is why when we listen to the Bible and they talk about the Elohim are part of the founders, right? This is the metaphysics of the angelic humans. This is what they are. This is where your chakras come into connecting with higher planes of existence because it's not just 7 chakras. The 7 chakras are in the physical layers of your body. But on the metaphysical layers or the etherical planes around your body, you have more chakras to be accessed, right? So this is what we're talking about. We're getting maybe not so much the chakras themselves, but we're talking about the mondanic spirit planes, the astral planes, and you have a connection to all of the densities, all the way up to the highest density, the creator density. There is a version of you that is a part of that soul fragmentation that resides within those, right? Just as Susan says something about the seven sisters of the Pleiades, I actually did an intense intense presentation on the Pleiades and the Seven Sisters. I never put it out because somebody else had, right before I was about to drop it, somebody else did it. So I put it on the shelf for a little while until that one breezes over, and then I'll do my rendition of it eventually. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I promise you. So over millions of years. Oh, we skipped a part. Sorry. This is so the Elohim acted in a supervisory role, protecting the Terran creation from the Modanic spirit plane. While in the soul planes, the Syrian Council orchestrated the genetic seedings from the second harmonic timelines. And as the root races of planet Earth were originally seeded into sub races that sourced from the 12 tribes, so it was the same for the first seeding on Terra, right? We know Terra is the fifth dimensional future Earth. So from the 13th, 14th, and 15th density, they were creating down into the harmonic universes. And each harmonic universe got specific entities to reside within them. That was their it was like a trickle down creation process. So they started with 10D, 11D, and 12D. They created that race. Then they created the seventh, eighth, and ninth dimensional beings. Then they went, which is Gaia. Then they went to Tara and seeded the fifth, sixth, fourth, fifth, and sixth density beings. And then eventually they came to the third harmonic universe, which is Earth. And it is, I believe, sorry, I might be going down the opposite way. I apologize. But for one, two, and third density beings were essentially seated on Earth. Those would become the root races, the 12 tribes, the Asceni tribes, right? So over millions of years, two distinctly opposing seed cultures emerged as infected by the AI programming of the neighboring Borga. The victim victimizer software, which was designated to amplify extreme forces of polarity that were particularly effective for harvesting life energy. The law of polarity was governed by the Gemini constellation, which downstepped mental body creations that were being generated for the AI mutations forming to reverse the polarity signatures and mutations. So within these mutations started to form in which one group of Terrans started to be genetically slanted towards more aggressive, dominating, and other service to self mantras. This group formed into what eventually played out as the Atlanteans, a patriarchal dominating culture that was very mentalized and scientific. The other culture was much more passive, spiritual, and willing to capitulate through service to others. This group formed into what eventually played out to be the Lemurians, a matriarchal culture that was very balanced with nature and was following the law of one. This is what I talked about in the very beginning of this episode, and how these two entities will eventually become one. These cultural differences amplified into greater energetic disturbances, which came to the polarity schism, right? Which is generating the Terran genetic digression into the patriarchal group they wanted to fully dominate over the others. And then their scientists began dangerous experimentation with the planetary core power system, ignoring warnings from the others. This is what I talk about when I talk about Atlantis, how they were fiddling with the planet. They were using the planetary core as a power source. And what happens? They either disconnect from it and there's nowhere for that energy that they've been siphoning to go, and boom, there goes a cataclysm. And then after that, it cools down. Here comes the ice age after the flood, right? That was my thought on Atlantis for a very long time. And Atlantis was a city, but they had installations that they could take off and leave planet as well. So to help restore unity consciousness, right, to the planet and help harmonize the growing extremes in the divergent cultures, the Syrian council set up the Council of Mu, and the Mu Council devoted themselves to the ancient wisdom practices which were in alignment with the natural laws and the law of one. They spoke of the necessity of attunement to nature and the natural laws, and the need for polarity integration back into the 0 point. So during the last stages of these conflicts, which ultimately led to the planetary destruction, a rebellion of several smaller wars broke out in protest of this decision that was made within the governance by the Syrian Council. And they had been responsible to administer through this Council of Mu. So at this time, the technological implications of the mind control was being used by these neighboring entities to convert humanity into slaves. And the impacts of the AI viral infection of this victimizer was not understood at all by these peoples. So these are the histories of the Syrian rebellions that generated rifts between the Syrian Anunnaki and the Syrian Elohims, who based their oversight and decisions to be aligned with the law of one. The Syrian rebels and the Anunnaki lineages refused to acknowledge the authority of the founders or the law of one. And this led to the cataclysm in a sequence of events which would eventually destroy the planet of Tara. Not destroy it where it blows up, but destroy the face of it so that it had to be rebuilt. And during this final destruction, the planetary consciousness held within her exploded and fragmented and were pulled into the black holes and came out the other side into the areas which were affected to the lowest creational realms, the underworld layers of the Milky Way system. The entirety of planet Tara's fragmentation of its essence and all of its species were pulled into this lower density because it didn't have the protections of that it had when the founders were on it before this cataclysm. And basically they reform themselves as they emerge into this instructional set which formed into the solar system pattern, which includes what we know of as today, and this becomes planet Earth. So they have to rebuild Tara, fifth density Earth, because third density Earth is what Tara became. So they had to build it back, right? And that's future Earth yet again. So when this all happens, things go into a tizzy. Thank you, Selena. Thank you so much for your contribution. I so appreciate it. You know, all of that is going to go back into creating what we need, right? And what we need is to get this out to everybody, to understand it. And that's what I do with all of the contributions and proceeds that go to this broadcast. It is truly incredible the support that y'all give to me, and I love all of you and appreciate all of you so much. And don't forget, subscribe, smash that like button, share this out, and leave that comment when we finish. Please, please, please help me help the world. Well, together we are unstoppable, always. So we're going to finish this section, and then we're going to get. I'm actually going to stop it at the end at an hour tonight, because this is important. This section alone is super important, right? And we need to understand that our lineage comes from these Christos founder races and so on and so forth down the line through angelic humans as well. Susan, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are definitely team humanity, but we're also team forever student family, full spectrum family. I love all of you. You know, I there is so much that we can do from this point, and we're going to do it. We're also going to do a group meditation, right? A group meditation that is going to transcend all that is, was, and ever will be, because we're going to do it together. We're going to influx our energy to the earth and to everything else around us. Thank you, Neo. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your contributions. We're going to build those up who cannot build themselves, right? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it. And I promise you, it's going to be something amazing. We're going to monitor the Schumann resonance while we do it. And we're going to have an energetic impact. It's going to wash over this world. And it's going to create such love and such beauty. Such beauty. So, the last section of what we're talking about here, right? It's going to be the last section. So, the earth and all of her consciousness is a composite total of the exploded fragments of our first home planet seeded with the divine human beings with 12-strand DNA planet Terra. Without intervention from the founder races, our meta-terrestrial family, and those Christos races that serve the law of one, and consciousness fragments of the world soul of Terra, all of her root races and species that would remain permanently fragmented and stuck in the lower density or the underworld layers of the time matrix would be unable to evolve, ascend, or eventually return home to the God worlds. Today, we are on the earth to continue this same archetypal journey for the sake of returning collective humanity back to their true spiritual home and reaching the same apex in the end of the cycle time where we are at a crossroads of evolution and making a choice for the direction of our future timeline. The major exception that is for the current incarnation on Earth, we have been given the blessing of the Christos mission. We are reaching an embodiment phase which correlates with the seventh cycle of reclamation of the Christos mission. In a plan for fulfilling the Paladorian covenant, this has required many stations of identity traveling in multiple time cycles in order to finally embody the Christ consciousness layers through the seven sacred sun cosmic principles of the universal creators. The beginning and the end all return back to Lyra. So after the fall of Tara, the Lyran Syrian Council, Elohims, Palladiums, and the priests of and other concerned citizens in the second harmonic universe contacted the Emerald Order for assistance and a rescue mission and was planned to retrieve the souls of Tara. This agreement is the reclamation of Christos. This mission that sources directly from the original Paladorian covenant that was set into motion millions of years ago, and the Paladorians agreed to be the first line of supporting evolution and reclamation of the inner spirit for all humanity, awakening in the first waves of ascension plan to help lead the Terran souls on back to home or back Earth home. Many of them are known as the star seeds. These are a variety of spiritual families that are directly under the procreate of the Emerald Order, and as a result, have specific frequency based signatures that can be recognized by the other entities. And these signals serve as a warning of defense or deflection to be utilized in the full extent of what applies in the service of upholding the cosmic order. And that, my friends, is all of you. You are what holds the cosmic order in balance. You are the way showers. You are all those who need to prosper in order to rejoin the 0 point. And we are, all of us, human. And when I say human, I mean even those entities that don't reside on this planet and in this planet. We are all part of the human race because the humans started in the seventh dimension on Lyra and worked their way down to all of the races that contact Earth today. Those are your brothers and sisters. Those entities are your brothers and sisters. We are brothers and sisters. And we, as the collective, hold the future within our collective palms. And that's why we're going to do meditations. We're going to look at the energetics of things. We're going to take pride in understanding all of that Why? Because we're going to help the entire multiverse from this point. From this point right here, from this station on YouTube, from this page, this content creator you see in front of you been given a mission. My mission is to change the world and archive all that was come before us, after us, and right now, to show that if there's ever a point in time where this cycle starts to pick up again, we have the blueprints to move back forward. But we are the ones that take a stand. We are the ones. We are the front line. And I'd be damned. I am so proud of all of you. And I'm so proud of what we've accomplished so far. And I can only, I can only hope that our progeny reaps so many rewards from what we've done. And I love you all from the bottom of my heart, from with every fiber of my being, with my consciousness, with my body, with my soul. You're all incredible. You all are the reason why I do this. I can't do it without you. And just so you guys know, Dehan is my wife. Just so you know. But I am hi, sweetheart. I am eternally grateful for all of you. All of those people, I love you too, babe. All of those people who donated tonight, you guys are absolutely the best. Please don't forget to leave a comment when this is over. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and please share this out. Together, we will awaken the world. Not we can, we will awaken the world. And I know it. So, with all that being said, we're at 1 hour, 1 minute, well, 1 hour, 2 minutes, 102. I think that's a great place to stop. So thank you all so much. Again, I love you all. Love one another. Pay that love forward and make sure that we are a structure for each other to lean on, because this is a great time to be alive, but there are a lot of difficulties running through right now. But there is no better time to be alive. So, with that being said, my name is Rob Yox. This is Full Spectrum Universe, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of the evening.